When you hear the word Rocky, you easily think of two of his most memorable opponents, Apollo Creed and Ivan Drago. Drago may be more memorable to some because of how he not only ended the career and existence of Apollo Creed, but also had a grueling match with Rocky Balboa and broke some things inside that were never fixed. However, there is one question that I feel is overlooked when people talk about Drago. Is he really a villain? Don't get me wrong, obviously what he did to Apollo is not okay by any means, but was he inherently evil or was he exploited by his country? Did he have a personal vendetta against Rocky Balboa and Adonis Creed, or was it more about acceptance? Could we see Drago again in the future? This is why Ivan Drago is a tragic character. Let's talk about his boxing style, how strong he really was, real life influences, and more. Let's recap on what we know about Ivan Drago so far. Similar to how I talked about what we knew about Clubber Lang, I'm going to talk primarily about Rocky IV and Creed II, with some backstory given from the video game Rocky Legends. Feel free to skip to the next chapter if you want to avoid the recap, but be warned, you may miss some important details later on in the video. According to Rocky Legends, trainer Sergei Rimsky and political advisor Nikolai Koloff, who are both seen in Rocky IV, start scouting some soldiers from the Soviet army to have someone to be able to crush the best that the West can offer. Among these soldiers is infantry captain and Olympic gold medalist Ivan Drago, who wins after defeating fellow soldier Alexei Bolek. Sergei and Nikolai introduce him to the lab where he will spend most of his time training with the newest equipment Russia has to offer. Ivan begins his amateur boxing career and after 100 straight victories, soon sets his sights on the world title, including its champion Rocky Balboa. Before that can happen, former heavyweight champion Apollo Creed convinces Rocky to train him, much to his reluctance, for an exhibition fight against Ivan, citing reasons of not wanting the USSR to make the USA look bad and to not be remembered as a has-been. The press conference between Apollo and Ivan quickly gets hostile thanks to comments made by Ludmila Drago, Ivan's wife, and Nikolai, prompting Apollo and Ivan to get physical. Before fighting, Ivan remarks that Apollo will lose, and near the end of the first round, soon unleashes a devastating barrage of punches that bloodies his opponent. Despite Rocky wanting to stop the fight, Apollo makes him promise not to stop it no matter what. Ivan continues to punish Apollo in the second round, and before Rocky can throw the towel in, Ivan throws the final punch, ending Apollo. After the fight, Ivan declares that he will defeat Rocky and remarks, "If he dies, giving Rocky a cold stare. Soon after, Rocky agrees to fight Ivan to seek revenge on the terms that he has to vacate the title and fight on Christmas Day in Russia. As the fight approaches, both fighters continue to train, where it's revealed that Ivan is given more steroids to have an advantage over Rocky. Claiming he must break Rocky before they fight, Ivan begins to dominate the fight until round 2, where he is thrown off guard after being cut open for the first time in any of his matches and remarks that Rocky is like a piece of iron. In the 15th round, after a long and grueling fight, Rocky and Ivan trade punches until Rocky begins to overpower Ivan and knocks him out to win the match. Because of this loss, Ivan is kicked out of the country and ends up in Ukraine. Ludmila and Ivan have a son, Victor Drago, but soon after the two divorce and Ivan raises Victor as a single father. Despite still fighting after the loss to Rocky, Ivan retired and focused on relentlessly training Victor to be a better fighter than he ever was. In 2018, he teams up with promoter Buddy Marcel, and Ivan personally visits Philadelphia to issue a challenge to both Rocky and Adonis Creed, the son of Apollo Creed, who is the current world heavyweight champion. Adonis agrees to take the fight to avenge his father without Rocky's help, and at the weigh-in, Ivan remarks that Adonis is smaller than Apollo. Things once again get physical, but both fighters train for the fight. During the match, Ivan harshly convinces his son to break Adonis, and that Adonis is embarrassing him, which is why Russia looks down on him and why Ludmila left. The fight eventually ends in disqualification as Victor purposely punches Adonis as he took a knee to recover from a rib shot. After Victor wins another match and calls out Adonis, he and his father are invited to dinner with some of Russia's elite. Ludmila arrives to the dinner, presumably for the first time since Victor's childhood, which infuriates Victor and causes him to storm out. Ivan convinces his son that despite the people in there abandoning him, he will do better than he did to put the Drago name back to where it belongs. Adonis agrees to take the fight once again, this time being trained by Rocky, and soon meets Victor in Russia. Because of his conditioning and training, Adonis is able to endure the hits all the way to round 10, despite Ivan convincing Victor to purposely target his ribs again. Adonis knocks Victor down back to back, and when Ludmila walks out, Victor loses the will to fight. Ivan soon throws in the towel to save his son from being beaten any further and reassures his son that it's okay that he lost, showing he cares more about his son than being accepted by his country. In a deleted scene, it's revealed that Adonis subtly forgives Ivan for what happened to the past, with Ivan nodding to Rocky, signaling that the rivalry has ended while comforting his son. The last we see of Ivan is training alongside Victor again, though this time as father and son instead of trainer and boxer. Now that we're up to speed on who Ivan is and what happened to him in the Rocky saga, what exactly was it that made Ivan Drago dangerous? The most obvious attribute would be Ivan's superhuman strength. As I talked about briefly in my Clubber Lang video, Ivan averages about 1,850 pounds compared to the average boxer who hits about 700 pounds per square inch. Later on in the film, the highest we see that he hits is 2,150. Now, while it's possible that there are fighters who can hit above that 700 mark, anywhere close to the 1,850 and 2,000 mark is very unlikely, considering that's the same equivalent force of being shot in the face. We also know that Ivan was given steroids to enhance his strength even further, but despite all of that, would he still have been dangerous? I would still say yes. Ivan was one of the heaviest opponents that Rocky had ever faced, so that was even more power he could put behind his punches. On top of his grueling conditioning from his time in the Soviet Army, Ivan was also trained with state-of-the-art equipment that Russia had to offer, which according to some was experimental and at least 20 years out from public use. The USSR was fully invested in Ivan as a shining hero for the people, so they spared no expense to make sure he was ready for any challenge that he faced. It's also interesting to note that during Rocky's training montage, that it compares his old school and fundamental way of training to Ivan's use of state-of-the-art technology, which could be interpreted sort of as a message as sometimes you have to get back to basics even if the technology is there. Intimidation was another tool in Drago's arsenal, as he had a presence that was perfectly conveyed by Dolph Lundgren, strong and silent. With what little he spoke, nearly 100% of his dialogue is iconic because of the context and the delivery, such as "I must break you and you will lose." From a viewer's standpoint, even his theme song is very intimidating, with the robotic-like instrumentation, the way some of the percussion sounds like someone is breathing, and the synths that sound very ominous, most notably when Ivan makes his entrance against Rocky. Speaking of that fight, Ivan seems to almost play mind games with Rocky as he constantly stares at him when he enters the ring prior to the fight, getting up in Rocky's face, only breaking eye contact to bow to the Soviet premier. During his fight with Rocky, he even goads Rocky to punch him in the body, shoving him across the ring in one point, and constantly going on the offensive to keep these games up. Some of this was also seen in the fight with Apollo, as he taunted Apollo to try to hurt him, and even shook his head at Balboa to note that Creed was in over his head. After the events of Rocky IV, the worst thing Drago did was leave an impact, both psychological and physical damage to Rocky, hurting Apollo Creed's family, and hurting himself due to having fought Balboa. In Rocky V, it's revealed that right after the fight, Rocky feels the angels tugging on him, as his hands can't stop shaking, and he mistakes Adrian for Mick. It's revealed that he has cavum septum, forcing him to retire with long-lasting permanent damage. Because of the fight with Drago, Rocky also develops PTSD in certain situations, such as Tommy speeding off in his car, and during his street fight with Tommy. Although by the events of 2006, it shows that Rocky has recovered somewhat and is clear to fight Mason Dixon, he remarks to Adonis that Ivan broke things in me that have never been fixed. Some of the more despicable things that Ivan did include attacking Apollo Creed after the bell in the director's cut. Perhaps annoyed at the fight with Creed because of the entrance, Ivan decides to go all in. Even if Rocky were to throw in the towel, Drago threw the referee off of him so he could still keep attacking Apollo. It's also worth mentioning in the director's cut, Drago's theme plays in the press conference with Balboa and is more ominous during his entrance before fighting Rocky. He's also portrayed as much more menacing in this fight, where the sound dips out in the first round when he knocks Rocky out cold for dramatic effect, even causing Rocky to internally doubt himself. In Creed 2, Drago openly remarks that Adonis is smaller than his father, implying physically that Adonis is weak, and perhaps that he would never be as legendary as his father was. Ivan also has no problem telling Victor to fight dirty with Adonis, telling him to break him, and in the second fight, tells Victor to do it again, which he ends up doing by clinching Adonis and breaking his ribs again. Who exactly is Ivan Drago based on? Although there doesn't seem to be a clear-cut answer on who Ivan would have been based on, as always, the Rocky franchise has mirrored some real-life boxing fights in the movies. After the first round with Ivan, Rocky remarks that he sees 3 of him out there to Tony, and Paulie responds with, "Hit the one in the middle." This comes from the match of Max Baer versus Max Schmeling, where this exact exchange occurred in Bear's corner after he was knocked groggy by Schlimming in the first round. Jack Dempsey told Bear to hit the one in the middle, and it seemed to work as Bear would go on to win in the 10th round. Perhaps the basis of the fight between Creed and Drago would be the last hurrah, also known as Larry Holmes versus Muhammad Ali. Although the fight itself was for the WBC and the ring heavyweight titles, it also took place in Las Vegas and was notable for Ali coming out of retirement to win the title from Holmes, who was his longtime sparring partner. Unfortunately, Ali was in no condition to fight due to his thyroid medication, and the fight was stopped in the 10th round. Sylvester Stallone was in attendance to watch the fight and described it as watching an autopsy on a man who was still alive. I make this comparison because we know that Ali was the basis for Apollo Creed, and Holmes could have been the basis for Drago in this said fight, as his reach of 81 inches is very similar to Drago's reach of 84 inches. That brings us to Ivan's style. Like Clubber, Ivan has tremendous strength, and outside of Rocky Balboa, which even then is debatable, no one could stand toe-to-toe and trade punches with him. Ivan's phenomenal reach made it hard for his opponents to try to move in and hit him, as he could use his jab to keep his opponents away. Again, Larry Holmes used this same technique as he learned to stick and move from Ali due to being his sparring partner, so this again could be why Drago has that same attribute. Because of a combination of conditioning, the steroid usage, and his time in the Soviet Army, Ivan can take punches just as well as he can dish them out. Although his style isn't as flashy as someone like Apollo, contrary to Clubber, Ivan does have some fundamental technique and purely doesn't rely on hooks and crosses. Ivan also has stamina, again unlike Clubber, and is able to take the fight to later rounds if need be, though considering that Rocky is the only one to ever defeated him, one can assume that most of his fights ended early. With all of that in mind, how was Rocky able to beat Ivan Drago? The first factor is Rocky had to undergo grueling physical conditioning to be able to take the hits from Ivan Drago. Rocky is known for his granite chin, as seen throughout the movies, but if he had to compete with Ivan's enhanced strength, he had to become the strongest he had ever been in his entire life. His exercises included, but not limited to, running through the snow and water in the coldest weather, chopping and sawing wood, chopping down trees, extreme sit-ups, reverse sit-ups, and horse cart military press. Although this routine would differ in Creed 2 for Adonis, it is a similar regimen that Rocky puts Adonis through to prepare for his match with Victor. This leads to the second factor, taking it to Drago physically. The only strategy that Rocky could utilize, in the words of Tony, is to put everything you got and punch until you can't punch no more. Rocky had to endure the most vicious shot that Ivan had to offer so he could do one thing, make Ivan realize that he's not invincible and is human. After a vicious right hook in the second round, Drago is completely phased, and it's because of this that Rocky was able to throw Drago off his game and start to pummel Drago near the end of the round. Ivan is so phased that he calls Rocky a piece of iron, while Tony makes Rocky realize that he's not a machine, he's a man. This leads into the third factor, shifting the mind games back to Drago. It's clear that Ivan had ran through everyone in all the fights he ever had prior to Rocky Balboa. He was never knocked down, never injured, and completely dominated every fight that he was ever in. When Rocky not only delivers a vicious hook, but also manages to cut Drago, it shakes him to his core and perhaps makes him realize that he is not as invulnerable as he once thought. Rocky also does some more of these mind games as he refuses to stay down after Drago gives him a jaw-breaking left hook in round 9. Drago's face says it all, with the look of, "Come on, really? That didn't put you down?" Rocky even has the gall to taunt in between round 10 and 11 after this, saying, "Come on." Presumably right before round 14, Rocky makes sure to stand up first before Ivan does to show that he's not going down anytime soon. Part of this mental mind game, which was unintentional but also didn't help Ivan, is that Rocky won over the crowd as time went on. Although Ivan was initially fighting for his country, he seems to be phased going into the final round by the crowd cheering for Rocky and not for him. This does tie into his character in Creed 2, as he's looking for an opportunity to get back in the good graces of Russia. The fourth factor is that Rocky's body shots did damage that compounded over time. Although Drago goaded Rocky to try to punch him in the body in the earlier rounds to prove that he can take it, this proved to be part of Drago's undoing. Midway through the final round, Rocky has Ivan against the ropes, delivering devastating body blows, and as he starts to turn the tide, Rocky keeps going for the body, and it hurts Ivan so much that he starts to jump from the impact. Although it was a hook to the face that put the final nail in the coffin, in the second round after Drago is cut, Rocky aims for more body shots as he has Ivan in the corner, and throughout the montage, there are a few times where Drago quickly turns the tide to avoid taking any more body shots from Balboa. This is a nice callback to the first Rocky film where Mickey remarks to cutman Al Savani, This guy goes to the body like nobody you've ever seen. It's also worth noting that Rocky at times still uses the style that Apollo taught him, sticking jabs from the outside and following up with some power punches like he did with Clubber Lang. Let's take a look at why Ivan Drago is a tragic character. While we see some traces of this in the original cut of Rocky IV, the director's cut of Rocky IV also makes some noticeable changes that, in my opinion, make Ivan's character more in line with how his character turns out in Creed II. Now, while we know very little of Ivan's life outside of the event of the movies, it's clear that he was handpicked to fight in a war that he had no say if he wanted to be part of it. As mentioned before, he was specifically picked to be trained as a super athlete to crush the West in the Cold War. Ivan Drago is clearly being exploited for Russia's own gain. In the original cut of the movie, when he's about to give a demonstration as Nikolai and Ludmila are talking to the press, when the topic of steroids comes up, he darts his eyes around nervously as the question is being asked if he's taken any. We can also assume he can understand English very well, as I'll elaborate on this later for reasons outside of Creed II, as when Ludmila denies and says that he eats his spinach like Popeye, he once again looks down and his eyes dart around nervously. Some of these same shots are used in the director's cut where Nikolai mentions body chemistry as a subconscious nod to steroids. This nervousness is expanded upon even more as Drago seems more human-like during notable scenes such as both fight press conferences, waiting for Apollo Creed to finish his elaborate entrance, and during the final round of his bout with Rocky. In the original cut, as he's being lifted into the arena as Living in America plays, we see that he's shocked and somewhat confused by the lights and setup. It's possible that this could be a result of his PTSD from his time in the Soviet Army. The reason I say this is that he's very disoriented by the lights, the sound effects, especially as the camera seems to shake at the lights and the model airplanes that are being suspended in the air. It could be that the sound effects, whether part of the entrance or hearing it in his head, is causing him to have flashbacks, which is why he took the Apollo fight so seriously. His post-fight dialogue after Creed in the director's cut includes that he wants people to know his name, Drago, further tying to his later dialogue before the final round with Rocky that he wants to fight for himself. In the same director's cut, Drago also seems to be annoyed when Nikolai speaks for him as he gives very direct answers to the press when asked about his fight with Rocky. It's also clear that prior to fighting either Apollo and Rocky, Ivan had no ill will towards either of them in comparison to Clubber Lang. Ivan simply wanted to prove to the world that he was championship material, which again does not excuse what he did to Apollo, but rather the reasoning behind the motivation. Ivan even seems to second guess either Rocky or himself as he stops to pause and look at Rocky, shaking his head as he walks off with the rest of the USSR representatives after the Balboa Drago press conference. During his training montage, you can tell there's more of a nervousness in the tone of the film as he's constantly being monitored, being watched, obviously a subtle hint at mass surveillance. The one thing Ivan does appreciate about being picked seems to be having the crowd behind him, as having that kind of support is perhaps something he lacked in his upbringing. Near the end of the fight, you can tell Ivan is so worn down, getting so impatient and frustrated that he can't seem to bring Rocky down in the new director's cut. In both cuts, Ivan is tired of being treated like a tool and claims to the crowd that he fights to win for himself. After Rocky wins by knockout, we see a side of Drago we haven't seen before. He has to be helped up by the ref and his trainers onto the stool in his corner. He seems so defeated in his expression and even needs assistance to stand up as his wife tends to him in the corner. In this new cut, Rocky's speech differs and mentions his friend Apollo dying in the ring and remarking how Apollo said people can't change. This specific speech seems to let on that Ivan can fully understand English, as when Rocky mentions Apollo dying, Ivan looks down in what seems to be remorse, perhaps feeling bad about his fight with Apollo. When Rocky remarks that if I can change and you can change, Ivan seems to be moved by these words as he looks up. Although it's hard to see exactly what their interaction is, we can see Rocky touching gloves with Drago on the way out as a sign of respect, and Ivan watches on as his rival leaves. In Creed II, Ivan's motivation is to get back in the good graces of Russia through his son Victor, as he was shamed and forced to leave the country. This is why he's so hard on his son. He wants to train him to be better than he ever could be. Ivan feels if he can get the win back through Victor, his family will once again be accepted by Russia and be proud of the Drago name once more. Ivan is even willing to tell his son to fight dirty, in a manner similar to Kreese telling Johnny to sweep the leg, to win by any means necessary. Despite being hard on his son, there are times where Ivan shows concern for his son. There's a look of worry when Victor refuses to take swigs of water. He also protests that while he doesn't care for the fact that Russia kicked him out, he knows that Victor will win and could be better than he ever could be. It's almost Ivan subtly admitting that Victor could make more of an impact than Ivan ever did, even greater than a feat of winning 100 amateur fights in a row when he beats Adonis. When seeing Rocky for the first time since the 80s, Ivan says that he lost everything and Rocky gained it all. But in reality, they're not that much different. Both lost many close people around them, family or not. Both were way past their prime as older gentlemen, and both lost their wife. Rocky lost Adrian to cancer, and Ludmila left Ivan and Victor. Both fighters happened to go down similar paths, though Ivan's was a little darker and he handled his losses differently. Both wanted to redeem themselves through the new generation. This comes full circle in Victor's second fight with Adonis. As Ludmila walks away after Victor is knocked down twice, he notices this, and you can tell by Victor's expression that his heart is breaking. It's the encouragement from his father that he tells him to keep pressing forward, but it's clear that he's lost the will to keep fighting. Ivan even looks over at Rocky, perhaps calling back when he was there watching Drago fighting Creed, and realizes what he has to do. At this point, it doesn't matter whether he's accepted by Russia or not. He only cares about his son's well-being. Ivan even reassures and hugs his son that it doesn't matter whether he won or not, which Victor appreciates, as Ivan was the only one who was ever there for him throughout his life. As I mentioned before, this is expanded upon even more in the locker room deleted scene, where Ivan is subtly forgiven by Adonis and gives a nod of respect to Rocky as he's comforting Victor. Here are my final thoughts on Ivan Drago. No matter which version of Rocky IV you watch, Ivan Drago is memorable, impactful, and is probably regarded as not only one of the best villains in the Rocky franchise, but also perhaps one of the best villains from any 80s movie. While Rocky IV was a shift in tone from the previous 3 Rocky films, Ivan brought an aura with his character that, in my opinion, has yet to be matched outside of Victor Drago. Given the fact that he caused long-term damage to Rocky in different aspects of his life, Drago did what he said he would do to Rocky: break him. While the director's cut has some flaws that I'll elaborate on in a later video, I think it did a good job of humanizing Drago a bit more and made his progression more linear towards his portrayal in Creed 2, much how Cobra Kai gave more depth to Johnny Lawrence in comparison to his original portrayal in The Karate Kid. Ivan throwing in the towel when Rocky should have is one of the best moments of the franchise, and it just comes full circle in the long-standing history between Rocky, the Creeds, and the Dragos. While Victor Drago is slated to come back in Creed 3 with no confirmation of Ivan coming back, I do hope we see more of the father and son relationship in that movie. If not, at least some of the effects of Ivan treating Victor more like his son and less like a student. If we never see Ivan again, I think Creed 2 is one of the best redemptions and send-offs that a villain could ever have. Before I go, I want to give a quick shout out and thanks to my partners and affiliates. I now have official merchandise. Go to strifethewarrior.art or click on any of the merchandise below the comments section. I'm running a promotion for 10% off from now until August 1st, so use coupon code NEWMERCH. If you need to prepare yourself from an attack from Ivan Drago, go to nordvpn.com/strifethewarrior or use coupon code StrifeTheWarrior to get a NordVPN 2-year plan with a huge discount. You can use NordVPN to unlock Netflix and your favorite entertainment websites that are not available here in the US. You can connect up to 6 devices at the same time with one account. There's no data logging whatsoever, and it works even in China. NordVPN works with Windows, Mac OS, Linux, iOS, and Android, has a Chrome extension which is very user-friendly, and unlimited bandwidth. If you're not happy with it for any reason, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. With 7 World Heavyweight Championships under its belt, it's no wonder why NordVPN is a winner. If you use this code, you also help directly support my channel. So go to nordvpn.com/strifethewarrior or use coupon code StrifeTheWarrior at checkout. Last but not least, I'm sure I have a good majority of gamers in the audience, but did you know you can grab some excellent games while supporting charities at the same time? If you haven't already, you should check out Humble Bundle. They've raised over $200 million in charity since 2010 and feature a different charity site-wide every month. If you see a bundle you like, you can pay for what you want and in return get computer programs, games, ebooks, etc., and the proceeds support charity. Go to humblebundle.com and use my referral link in the description at checkout. As always, these referral links help support the channel, so thank you NordVPN and Humble Bundle. Let me know what you guys think down below. How good was Ivan Drago? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, subscribe, share it with your friends, and comment, as these all help my channel grow. If you're new to my channel, feel free to check out my analysis on Cobra Kai and Tiger and Bunny, 2 amazing shows on Netflix with similar themes and characters as seen in the Rocky franchise. If you haven't already, check out my analysis I did recently on Clubber Lang. Be sure to check out and subscribe to my second gaming channel. I'm trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and supporting this channel also helps me support my main channel. I'll be uploading more clips to this gaming channel, so stay tuned for that. Keep up with me on my socials via Instagram and Twitter. Shout out to my YouTube members, I appreciate the support. If you'd like to directly support the channel, consider becoming a member and enjoy perks such as VIP channels access in Discord, preview videos before release, 15% off of merch, members only live streams and chats, and more, all for only 99 cents. Thanks for watching, stay beautiful, stay awesome, and we'll catch you around next time.